One day, thousands of workers showed up to factories that had been running for decades. The parking lots were full. Coffee was brewing. Then the announcement came. Some companies sold overnight to foreign corporations. Some simply filed bankruptcy and locked the gates. Some were erased by rivals who didn't want the competition. These weren't tiny operations. These were giants. Giants that employed tens of thousands of people and put food on the world's table. Today we reveal 10 tractor companies that disappeared almost overnight. Number 10. Farmtrac, North America. We're starting with one of the most recent tractor brand collapses in North American history. Farmtrac, North America. And this one hits especially hard because it happened so fast and so completely that farmers with Farmtrac tractors were left scrambling for parts within days of the announcement. The story starts with Long Manufacturing, a company founded in 1948 in Tarboro, North Carolina. Long built its first tractor that year and spent decades importing Romanian Universal UTB tractors and Italian Landini machines and selling them under the Long brand to American farmers. Long filed for bankruptcy in 1985, reorganized by 1987, and limped along for another decade. In 1998, India's Escorts Group purchased Long Agribusiness and began importing tractors from India under the Farmtrac brand. The deal looked promising. Escorts was a legitimate Indian manufacturer with real production capacity, and the Farmtrac line offered decent compact tractors at competitive prices. But the business model was built on thin margins and shaky ground. Parts supply chains from India were unreliable. Dealer support was inconsistent. Then in 2002, Escorts acquired the remaining 51% of the company, and the Long name was officially dropped. Everything became Farmtrac North America. Dealers were told the future was bright. It wasn't. In 2008, Farmtrac North America went bankrupt. The company collapsed so completely that even the inventory was auctioned off, bought up by Montana Tractors in a liquidation sale. Farmers who owned Farmtrac tractors suddenly had no manufacturer support, no official parts supply, and no warranty. One day the company existed. The next day it was gone. The remaining parts inventory was purchased by Montana Tractors, which itself later ran into serious financial difficulties. Number 9. White Farm Equipment. Number 9 covers one of the longest and most complicated corporate death spirals in tractor industry history, White Farm Equipment. And this story stretches from the 1960s all the way to 2001, passing through multiple bankruptcies, a Texas investment firm, and finally being absorbed into Agsico. White Motor Corporation of Cleveland, Ohio, entered agriculture in November 1960 when it acquired Oliver Farm Equipment. In February 1962, White added Cockshut of Canada. In 1963, it purchased Minneapolis-Moline. By 1969, White had merged all three brands, together with their iconic green, red, and prairie gold paint schemes, into the unified White Farm Equipment Company based in Oak Brook, Illinois. By 1975, Oliver, Minneapolis-Moline, and Cockshut were formally retired as separate brands, and the silver-painted Whitefield Boss line took over. Then, White Motor Corporation filed for bankruptcy in 19. The truck division was sold to Volvo in 19. The agriculture division was sold to a Texas investment firm called TIC, which branded it WFE, White Farm Equipment. The farm economy hit a severe recession in the early 1980s, and TIC sold WFE to Allied Products Corporation, which combined it with their New Idea Farm Equipment brand to form White New Idea. The White tractor line was ultimately purchased by AgeCo in 19. AgeCo continued to produce tractors under the White brand at the Coldwater, Ohio plant. But in 1999 and 2000, AgeCo announced the closure of the Coldwater plant along with other facilities. In 2001, the White tractor line was fully merged into the AgeCo brand, and the White name disappeared from tractors entirely. It had taken 32 years, 4 ownership changes, 2 bankruptcies, and 1 global agricultural corporation to finally finish off what started as one of America's most ambitious agricultural mergers. Number 8. Steiger Tractor Company. Number 8 is an American success story that ended the same way too many American success stories did in the 1980s. The Steiger Tractor Company of Fargo, North Dakota. The Steiger story begins during the winter of 1957 and 1958 on a dairy farm near Thief River Falls, Minnesota, where John Steiger and his sons Maurice and Douglas decided to build their own tractor. They couldn't find what they needed on the market, so they built a 15,000-pound four-wheel drive articulated beast from salvaged parts powered by a Detroit 671 diesel engine. Neighboring farmers saw it working and wanted one. By 1963, the Steigers were building tractors seriously, and in January 1969, a new corporation was formed and manufacturing moved to Fargo, North Dakota, with 26 employees. The growth was extraordinary. By 1975, the company had grown so fast, it built a brand new 400,000 square foot plant in Fargo. By the mid-1970s, Steiger had about 70% of the North American four-wheel drive tractor market. Their tractors carried legendary cat names: the Wildcat, the Bearcat, the Cougar, the Panther, the Tiger. Annual sales under CEO Eugene Dahl climbed from $2 million to over $105 million in just 6 years. By 1973 and 1974, Steiger was building tractors for International Harvester under a supply agreement. They were also building the FW series of tractors for Ford Motor Company from 1978 to 19. Then the 1980s farm crisis hit. Sales collapsed. The struggling farm economy forced Steiger into bankruptcy. In 1986, Tenneco, the parent company of Case International, purchased Steiger for a fraction of its former value. Case IH continued building lime green Steiger tractors alongside their own red machines. But by 1990, the famous Steiger green was retired. All tractors came out red with Case IH branding. The Steiger name itself disappeared briefly until 1995, when Case IH reintroduced it on their 9300 series. A great American family company that grew from a dairy barn to a world leader in 30 years, ended by a farm recession that nobody fully saw coming. Number 7. Versatile manufacturing. At number 7 is Canada's most celebrated tractor maker, Versatile. Founded in Winnipeg, Manitoba in 1963 by Peter Pakosh and Roy Robinson. Versatile started by making grain augers and swathers before entering the four-wheel drive tractor market in 1966 with the D100, a 100-horsepower articulated machine powered by a Ford 6-cylinder diesel. Both the D100 and its gasoline sibling, the G100, sold for under $10,000, making serious four-wheel drive tractor power accessible to average farmers for the first time. Versatile was the first company in the world to mass-produce articulated four-wheel drive tractors, starting with those 1966 models. By the 1970s, Versatile had captured about 70% of the North American four-wheel drive tractor market. Their lineup grew to include machines ranging from 220 horsepower all the way up to 330 horsepower in the Versatile 1150. In 1977, they entered the record books when they built Big Roy, officially designated the Versatile 1080, named after co-founder Roy Robinson. Big Roy had 8 wheels, a 19-liter Cummins engine producing 600 horsepower, and weighed 26 tons. It never went into production, but it demonstrated what Versatile could do. In 1977, the founding owners sold to Cornat Industries, and then in 1987, Ford New Holland purchased the company. The iconic Versatile colors were replaced with Ford blue and white. The Versatile name was shrunk and pushed below the model number on the hood. When Fiat purchased Ford New Holland's agricultural operations in 1991 to create New Holland, Versatile became a New Holland product. Then in 1999, when Case IH and New Holland merged to create CNH Global, regulators required the Versatile factory to be divested because Case IH already owned the Steiger brand. Versatile was sold to Buhler Industries of Canada in 2000, who kept the Winnipeg plant running and eventually restored the Versatile name to prominence. Then in 2007, Russian manufacturer Deutz-Allis purchased Versatile. The brand survives to this day, but the original independent Versatile that built its way from a grain auger company to the world's four-wheel drive tractor leader was gone by Number 6. Deutz-Allis. Number 6 is the story of how a German company bought an American icon, didn't fully understand what it had, and lost it in 5 years. Deutz-Allis. When Allis-Chalmers sold its agricultural division to Kluckner Humboldt Deutz of Germany in May 1985, the new owners renamed the business Deutz-Allis. They immediately made a decision that stunned loyal Allis-Chalmers farmers across America. They discarded the famous Persian orange paint and Allis-Chalmers tractor designs in favor of spring green tractors with Deutz air-cooled engines imported from Germany. The loyal American dealer and customer base reacted with complete rejection. American farmers who had grown up with orange Allis tractors were not going to switch to green machines with German engines. KHD had fundamentally misunderstood the depth of brand loyalty in American farming communities. Meanwhile, the larger Deutz-Allis tractors above 130 PTO horsepower were sourced from White Farm Equipment's plant in Coldwater, Ohio, essentially rebadged white tractors with Deutz engines. KHD slashed the dealer network from about 1,800 to just 800 and cut the U.S. workforce from more than 1,800 to just 900. By 1989, despite reducing annual losses from $82 million in 1987 to just $1.9 million, KHD decided they had had enough of American farm equipment. In June 1990, 4 former Deutz-Allis executives, led by Robert Ratliff, bought the North American operations from KHD in a management buyout. They renamed the company Gleaner Allis Corporation, immediately rearranged the letters to Allis Gleaner Corporation, and thus was born AgeCo. They brought back the orange paint, rebranded the tractors as AgeCo Allis, and went on an acquisition spree that would eventually make them the world's third-largest agricultural equipment manufacturer. The 5-year Deutz-Allis experiment was officially finished, but out of its ashes rose a company that now owns Massey Ferguson, Fendt, Valtra, and Challenger. Number 5. Ford Tractor Division. Number 5 might be the most shocking entry on this entire list because the company in question is still one of the most recognizable names on earth: Ford. And yes, Ford walked away from the tractor business, effectively ending nearly 75 years of farm machinery history. Ford built its first production tractor in 1917, the Fordson Model F. During the 1920s, Ford had 75% of the entire American tractor market. They temporarily shut down U.S. production in 1928, then returned in 1939 with the legendary Ford 9N, featuring Harry Ferguson's 3-point hitch. The Ford 8N, introduced in 1947, sold over 530,000 units and is considered by many to be the most popular farm tractor ever built in North America. Ford continued innovating through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, introducing turbocharged engines and the iconic blue and gray color scheme. In 1985, Ford expanded aggressively by purchasing Sperry Corporation's New Holland division for $330. Then in 1987, Ford New Holland also purchased Versatile of Canada to gain a 4-wheel drive line. But by the early 1990s, the aftermath of the 1980s farm crisis had transformed the industry. The market had consolidated so severely that only companies with global scale could compete effectively. In 1991, Ford sold its tractor division to Fiat for an undisclosed amount. One of the deal's conditions allowed Fiat to use the Ford name for the first 10 years of production. By 1993, the branding shifted entirely to New Holland. By 1994, Ford-branded tractors ceased entirely. One of the most storied names in American manufacturing, the company whose founder said, "I have walked many a weary mile behind a plow," simply decided the tractor business wasn't worth fighting for anymore. Ford tractors disappeared, absorbed into what is now CNH Industrial. Number 4. International Harvester Agricultural Division. Number 4 is arguably the most painful corporate disappearance in the history of American agriculture. International Harvester, a company that traced its roots to Cyrus McCormick's 1831 horse-drawn reaper that helped mechanize American farming, that introduced the Farmall tractor in the 1920s, that built the first 100-horsepower row crop tractor in all that revolutionized harvesting with the axial flow combine in all of it gone by The seeds of disaster were planted in the 1970s. International Harvester expanded into too many product lines simultaneously. Management became bloated and slow. Then came the crushing blow, a 6-month strike by the United Auto Workers Union from November 1979 to April 9. While the production line sat silent, John Deere kept building tractors and capturing market share that IH would never fully recover. IH lost $1.7 billion in 1980 alone. Interest rates soared to 21% in the 1980s farm crisis followed immediately after. I began selling off assets to survive. The construction equipment division was sold to Dresser Industries in but the farm equipment division, IH's very identity and soul, kept hemorrhaging losses. In fiscal 1982, IH reported an operating loss of $822 million, then $434 million the following year. The company had no more options left. On November 26, 1984, International Harvester agreed to sell its agricultural products division to Tenneco's JIK subsidiary for $260 million in cash and $170 million in preferred stock. On May 14, 1985, the last International Harvester tractor rolled off the Farmall Works line in Rock Island, Illinois. It was a 514-88 FWA. Workers who had given their careers to IH watched the final machine roll out in silence. In January 1986, the company renamed itself Navistar International Corporation. A 150-year-old agricultural dynasty ended in a single transaction. Number 3. Allis-Chalmers Farm Equipment. Number 3 is the story of a company that was, at its peak, generating more annual revenue than IBM, yet collapsed completely within a single decade. Allis-Chalmers. Founded in 1901 through industrial mergers, Allis-Chalmers entered farm equipment in 1940. Their contribution to American farming was immense. In 1929, their marketing director Harry Merritt saw California poppy flowers and decided to paint their tractors Persian orange, beginning one of the most distinctive brand identities in agricultural history. In 1932, Allis-Chalmers collaborated with Firestone to introduce the world's first pneumatic rubber tires on farm tractors, an innovation that improved fuel economy and tractive force by 10 to 20% and spread across the entire industry within 5 years. In the early 1950s, Allis-Chalmers' 30,000-plus employees generated more annual revenue than IBM. The company was larger than 3M and Coca-Cola combined. But the 1980s farm crisis devastated the agricultural equipment market across the board. Allis-Chalmers had diversified into so many industrial divisions that none could be managed effectively. In 1983, they sold the Simplicity Lawn and Garden division. Then 1985 became the year of complete dissolution. The Fiat-Allis construction joint venture ended. The Siemens-Allis electrical controls joint venture ended. Most catastrophically, in May 1985, Allis-Chalmers sold its farm equipment business to Kluckner Humboldt Deutz of West Germany for approximately $132 million. December 7, 1985 was the last day. An Allis-Chalmers Model 6070, serial number 1972, rolled off the assembly line at the West Allis, Wisconsin plant at 10:26 in the morning. Someone propped a sign reading, "That's all folks, the end," on the front of that last tractor. Workers who had spent decades in the plant that once employed 17,000 people shook hands and walked out. Only about 100 remained on that final day. Allis-Chalmers itself continued to dissolve in pieces through the late 1980s and finally closed its Milwaukee offices in January, one of America's most innovative companies. Builders of the world's first fuel cell-powered vehicle in 1959, gone completely. Number 2. Minneapolis-Moline, Oliver combined. Brand history under white. Number 2 is the death of 3 legends rolled into one catastrophic collapse. Minneapolis-Moline, Oliver, and the White Farm Equipment Company that killed them both before eventually dying itself. Minneapolis-Moline was formed in 1929 and pioneered the closed-cab farm tractor with the 1938 UDLX Comfort Tractor, featuring a heater and radio years before any competitor. Oliver was formed the same year, 1929, grew to be the #1 selling row crop tractor brand in American history, and built over 570,000 tractors at their Charles City, Iowa plant. When White Motor Corporation bought Oliver in 1960, Minneapolis-Moline in 1963, and Cockshut in 1962, they had assembled an agricultural powerhouse. Instead, they stripped the companies for cash. By 1974, the Minneapolis-Moline brand was dropped. By February 1976, the last green Oliver tractor rolled off the line. The once vibrant Charles City plant, which had been building tractors since Hot Pa moved there in 1901, kept going under the White name. But White Motor Corporation filed for bankruptcy in 1980 and sold the agricultural division. The plant passed through multiple owners, each managing it worse than the last. In 1999 and 2000, HCO announced the closure of the Coldwater, Ohio White Assembly Facility. Then on July 31, 1993, the Charles City plant itself was officially closed, ending 92 consecutive years of tractor production on that site. A massive multi-day auction was held. Over 570,000 tractors had come out of that single facility. Everything Oliver, everything Minneapolis-Moline, and everything White was now gone. Three great companies had effectively been murdered by a series of corporate owners who valued extraction over investment. Number 1. International Harvesters Farmall Works, Rock Island. Our number 1 is not a company, but a single specific moment that represents the end of an era more completely than any other event in American tractor history. The closing of International Harvesters Farmall Works in Rock Island, Illinois, on May 14th. The Farmall Works in Rock Island had been the beating heart of American tractor manufacturing for over 60 years. This was where the original Farmall tractor was developed in the early 1920s by IH engineer Bert Benjamin. This was where the Farmall H, arguably the most popular row crop tractor ever built, with over 390,000 units produced, came to life. This was where the Farmall M, the Super MTA, and the entire letter series were built. By 1930, 200 Farmall tractors were rolling off the Rock Island line every single day. This plant produced so many tractors that at precisely 9:00 a.m. on February 1, 1974, the 5 millionth Farmall branded tractor rolled off this very production line. IH became the first tractor manufacturer in history to reach 5 million units. When the sale to Tenneco was finalized in early 1985, production at Farmall Works ceased. Tractor production moved to Racine, Wisconsin under the Case IH brand. On May 14, 1985, the very last International Harvester tractor, a Model 54088 FWA, came off the line. Workers gathered. Some took photographs. Some shook hands with colleagues they'd worked alongside for 20, 30, 40 years. Then they turned off the lights and walked out for the last time. A factory that had contributed more to American food production than almost any other building on Earth simply stopped. The 1980s farm crisis wiped out 5,800 farm equipment dealers from 1979 to 19. It is estimated that the average American dealership employed about 18 people, meaning roughly 103,000 people lost their dealership jobs during those years. Some dealers, buried in unsold inventory and unpayable debt, took their own lives. The 5040 ID8 FWA that rolled out of Farmall Works on May 14, 1985, was the last tractor bearing the IH name built on American soil under International Harvesters ownership. It represents not just one company's end, but the end of an entire era of American industrial agriculture. If this video hit home, smash that like button and subscribe for more farm history content that actually matters. And drop a comment below. Which of these companies did your family know? Which brand have you never forgotten? Until next time.